Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go over this test review worksheet. This is what we did in class today. What I want you to do is to print this worksheet off, and if you haven't done so already, you need to go through and try to do these problems on your own. With the exception of number 9 and 10, everything else is stuff we've done in class. So 9 and 10 we can kind of scribble off. We haven't got to that point yet, and we're not going to worry about that. So if you haven't done so already, try to do these problems and then come back and finish watching the video. Alright, so if we're looking up at the top, it says use the figure to answer numbers 1 through 4. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, and the copy got cut off here, but that's number 4. Basically, they're testing their knowledge of what we did in the first week of class. Do you remember what collinear means? Do you remember what coplanar means? All right. So in this case, we have this figure, and we're going to use it. So in this number 1, it says to name 3 collinear points. Remember that collinear means existing on the same line. So in this particular thing here, there are only 2 sets of points on which there are 3 collinear points. You could have DBF, FBD, any one of those 3 points, or I think ABC. Okay, I can't even read my own writing. So you can have A, B, C. Collinear, points on the same line, those are the only 2 in that figure that are on the same line. Number 2 says name 4 coplanar points. Now remember that coplanar means existing on the same plane. So notice this whole thing is on the plane of the paper. So basically any point on that plane is a coplanar point. So you could have, we only have to name 4, but I'll write them all down here. It's A, B, C, D, E, and F. Notice Q is not a point. Q is the name of the plane Q. All right. In number 3, it says what point intersects line AC. So line AC and plane Q. So what you have to kind of see here is that this line ABC is not on the same plane. So actually I made a mistake up here. A is not on the plane and C is not on the plane. So the only coplanar points are B, D, E, and F because I was misreading the drawing. But notice how the line is solid here, and then there's a dotted line. That dotted line means that the line is actually going through the paper and going out of the paper. So if your plane is the paper, this line BC is coming out of it like so. If you can see that, I don't know, it's not very good. But it's basically coming out of the paper. So this line exists sort of perpendicular to the plane of the paper. So what point intersects line AC and the plane Q? Well, that's point B. That's where it intersects. All right. And then finally, number 4, in this example, they want you to name the following in one other way. So we've got ray DF. So the ray starts at D and goes to F. Now remember, when it comes to a ray, you have to start, the first letter has to be where the ray terminates, where that point is. Okay? So your renamed ray has to have D as the first letter. Then you have to pick another letter that exists on that same ray, and the only other letter that is there is B. So this is ray DB. That's the only other way you can name ray DF, because you have to start with D as the first letter because that's a ray, and a ray ends on that side. Okay? For part B, segment DB. So segment DB. Remember, when it comes to segments and lines, you can flip-flop the letters. So the only other way to rename that would be to call it segment BD. Okay? With segments and lines, you can flip-flop the letters and be okay. Now with C, line, remember that above the DF is the symbol for line. So this is line DF. So there's a couple of ways you can rename that. You can call it line FD, flip-flop the letters. Or you can call it line BF or line DB or BD or FB. Okay? When it comes to a line like that, it doesn't matter because the line goes on forever in both directions. A segment, you can't do that because the segment ends at both of those points. So the only way to rename the segment in B was to flip-flop the letters. All right. So if we have part D, they want us to rename angle DBA. So DBA. So the only other way we could name that would be to flip-flop the letters there. Remember that the B still has to stay in the middle because that is the vertex. So we can call that A, B, D. All right. If you have any questions on those 4 problems, bring them to class.